Okay, hopefully we'll crack through this because I know it's nearly beer o'clock and there is a few people still here, so we'll try and get on with it. I'll just point out at the beginning though that I met a couple of people in the when I first came to the conference here, and they said, "Oh, you're the guy that does software." Just to clarify, last time I was on the stage, I was talking about box compression tool software. That is a side hustle. My real day-to-day job is actually doing manufacturing improvement at plants, so this is really what I'm here to talk about. Brief agenda, two things really. I'm going to take you through a bit about the sponsored assessment day, and then take you through some common lean program activity. And I know most programs are bespoke to a client, but I tend to find the same themes keep coming up, and I'll take you through how I would normally go about approaching it. The assessment day then, it's sponsored if you're a member of the SPA, so it's going to be paid for, and you get a day of my time in that. The agenda for that day isn't set in stone. I would probably agree it could be different for each plant, and if you wanted to have an assessment day, we could agree up front what you are really trying to get from that particular day. If you just let me do my own thing, sometimes I use a McKinsey framework as a loose guide for the day, and and I will be able to go through the operating system, management infrastructure, and mindsets and behaviors. And they break further down. I think the old adage is, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, and this framework allows me to sort of break the business down into bite-sized pieces. It's usually geared towards a review of the plant to give you a warts and all of where you stand and where the opportunities are. So I'll be telling you good things and bad things. It's about walking the floor. It's about trying to get as much time discussing stuff with you as possible. It's training in inverted commas because we will maybe get into a topic and I'll probably get the flip chart and pens out and we'll start scribbling stuff on the flip chart and take you through a few things and we'll discuss it there and then. And also, I like to try and crunch some numbers to let you understand the size of the prize if you want to go further and go onto a program, what you might get out of that and what sort of money, I guess, you're going to achieve. Okay, so some of the things in a lean manufacturing initiative, each program is obviously tailored to a plant. However, it's most often about providing some fundamental principles and key tools to attack the losses of OEE, and that's normally how I approach it. So this is, you may or may not be familiar with OEE, but effectively we start off with scheduled hours. We have some losses in the system, so we either have downtime and we have set time, and that gives us our availability. We often don't run our machines at the speeds that they can run at. We have micro stops, so again we end up with some sort of productivity ratio. And then finally we've got waste that comes out of that, and in fact what we end up with is OEE. So really what we are about is attacking these different losses in the system, and that's what a program will be trying to achieve. The first one is Pareto analysis. They attack downtimes. Most of you probably will use some form of Pareto analysis in your plants. Pretty straightforward really. You sum up all the downtimes that you've had. You put the biggest ones on the left-hand side, going down through to the smallest ones. There is a secondary axis here, so if you look at this particular example I've got, issue 1, if you read across, is actually 30% of all the downtime in that particular plant. That's what the red line is, and that's the cumulative effect. The first one and the second one together, you go across, there's probably about 50% of your downtime and so forth. So really what we want to try and do in downtime really is, number one, make sure we're actually accurately recording them. A lot of people I find, it's amazing when you go into a plant, all the downtimes in the plant are always divisible by 5 minutes, not 3 minutes or 7 minutes, whatever, but it's always sort of made up a bit, I would suggest. Have a sufficient set of codes in your list, whether it be in your Abaca or your Spox or wherever it is, which reflect what may go wrong on the machine, but isn't like a proliferation of hundreds and hundreds of different types of codes. And then obviously, make sure you're working on these downtimes as a project and not on these ones here. And I'd be surprised how many people aren't even really actively seeing this and working on the big losses in the system. Okay, so back to our fundamental tools then. The next one It's something that I use myself and I give clients when they're working with me, and I call it my continuous improvement opportunity log. A bit of a mouthful, really, but really what I'm trying to do here is I want to have something that can collate all the issues within a plant or on a machine, but probably within a plant, and I want to record it all. So what we want to get away from is gripes from the operators and people writing down, oh, this isn't working or something. And what I want to do is, that's fine. We want to capture these things, you know, who, what, when, where, what type of downtime we're getting. But the next thing we really want to do is we want to understand the impact that it's having on your plant. So if we sort of bring this out a bit. What I often say to operators or crews when they have a problem, they say, oh, well, this doesn't work. And my first sort of response to them is, so what? What does it actually mean? If that's a problem for you, what does that actually mean in real terms? So I've got an example here. So yeah, 20 minutes is lost twice a day. But that 20 minutes lost twice a day is a lot of hours in a year. So really the message here is that small frequent losses can amount to large losses when you view it annually. You know, that could be several weeks of your production back if you're fixing that problem. Also record who's going to fix it, when they're going to do it, and you've got some idea of like an ongoing to-do list. And also in it, what I normally put in is some sort of mini CapEx type thing. So in this instance, this problem is going to cost £2,000 to fix. We can work out what the benefit is because we know it's 170 hours a year, £100 an hour, whatever. And thus we can say, oh, that will pay us back in 1.5 months. Is that a good project? I would suggest that one probably is a good project. So that's really the downtimes, the continuous improvement. Obviously, when you have a long list of issues all in one place, and again, this is an opportunity to put one place, we can see the status of each of these, and also particularly when you then get to sort, we can see which our priorities are, and the ones at the top of the sheet are the ones that we should be working on because they give us our biggest bang for our buck. And that's where we should put our money and our resources into. Okay, next one is SMED, or single minute exchange of dies. And obviously that's used to attack our setup losses. There is a 6-stage process for that. I'm not going to go into it. But the key really to the SMED exercise is quite a good sort of half-day session with crews, is that they are very much part of that process. So when we do a SMED exercise to create a new SOP for how we set a machine, it's the crews who develop that. It's not my SOP. I don't run machines, so I might guide and sort of steer people in certain directions, but ultimately it's all about engagement and ownership from the crew. Some SMED results. This is actually from Nuttall Packaging a few years back, and you can see that back in the day, some time ago, they were averaging 15 minutes on their Maramatsu machine. Over time, we did some work, and they ended up about 7 minutes. Now, you think, well, yeah, so what? They've come down 8 minutes. But if you do 8 minutes, 10, 15 times a day, let's say 10 times a day, 250 working days a year, you're now looking at 40 days production back, free, for just going through a fairly simple process, really. Okay, speed. It's all about understanding run standards, you know, what speed should be running small beef-flute boxes versus large double-wall boxes, etc. And just having some standards that people work to and the operators know, when I get that job, this is what the speed of the machine I'm going to set to. It's about understanding and recording your microstops. You'll be surprised that often microstops, actually, you think you know all your downtimes in a plant, and you know, because you log everything above, say, 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and it gets a code and all that sort of stuff. Microstops will probably dwarf that once you actually really get into it and see what microstops you're having on a machine that stops for 30 seconds or whatever. They can be very considerable. Also, make sure that if you have some sort of machine factor model within your software, that is closely aligned to what you're actually doing, because you're going to, at some point, possibly cost on that, you're going to plan on that, and again, it's just trying to help plants making sure that those are in alignment. Waste, normally the other things look after waste, or you can do things like statistical process control. What sits around all of that, some tools that will sit around all of what we're looking at. First one is 5S and autonomous maintenance. And what we're really looking at there is, again, 5S is you'll not be surprised to know, is a 5-stage process that we go through. Again, I'm not going to go through it, but really it's about the result of what comes out of that. You should have a well-organized workplace. This is an example that was at Cumberland Packaging. So we've developed what's going on around the Eterna, but it also included bespoke dollies that we built for it. We designed up some frameworks to have new jobs and old jobs on the platform, shadow boards, all that sort of stuff. Again, engagement with the operators. It is their workplace. They have to have their say in that and help develop it, and we end up with a very high-functioning workplace. Come on. This is an example at Southwest Packaging. This is actually a standards board. One of the processes that we go through is creating standards. This is actually a physical board that sits above the machine. It's probably the size of a very large television, and it actually has a standard that they expect to see on the machine, both qualitatively and obviously pictorially, to say this is what we want our factory to look like. Okay, the next one that will come around then is we've got things like operating system performance management, which is the KPIs, as it were, standard operating procedures. So first one is understand your numbers. What do you give to the operators? What do you look at yourself? What are you going to look at in terms of long-term trends, but also write down through into the daily information that you're going to give operators so they know exactly where they are, and they understand them basically as well, and they understand the vision for the company and what they're trying to achieve and whether they're being successful or not. Standing operating procedures is very much that, is to have this is how we do this task. This is the best way to do this particular task at this particular time. Just to show you that SOPs can be used for anything, this is a standing operating procedure for folding a T-shirt.
1のところを左手でつまみます。次に左手でつまんだところから延長した肩と裾のところを右手でつまみます。あとは払って袖のところから折り込むようにして畳めば、そうです。こんなに綺麗にできます。
So we're all going to be great at folding our clothes when we go back this evening or tomorrow evening. The thing that I also often connect the SOPs to is to go through a process where you, number one is define all the SOPs to say you need to know to be able to run a machine. And in this particular example, there's quite a lot because it's based on a corrugator. And then the next thing you do is assess the current skills. So take all the people who might run that and say, what levels of skill do they have currently in each of those SOPs? Create training records, and then really more importantly is to understand where you want to be in the future. So what is the future state map? What do you want to have skills in those machines at a year from now or 2 years from now? And what that really does is create a skills gap. And from that skills gap, then you can, what falls out, and you won't be surprised to learn that I've written a piece of software that does this, but what will fall out is a training plan to say, you know, next month Jimmy's doing this, you know, and the month after that you're doing that, and the month after you're doing that, and so you end up with some sort of plan going forward. So as you achieve your vision for what multi-skilling you want within a plant. Continuous improvement infrastructure. So that's really about how do we set ourselves up to do continuous improvement. And there's a couple of key things really. I'd probably characterize sheep plants and what they need to do. And the first one is set up a continuous improvement infrastructure. With every pair of these, you get one of those free. And we've been talking a lot about teams and stuff, but often we don't use them, or we're not really set up to do it. You know, if you don't bring your operators occasionally, and not mean all the time, but at least sometimes, off the machines into the conference room or your training room, whatever, and actually engage them and talk about their performances, talk about the problems, look at the continuous improvement opportunity log and all those sorts of things, then it's going to be very difficult to sort of go forward. The people on the coalface see the problems, so you have to engage in them, make sure that they're involved in the process. This is probably what I would characterize sheep plants do the most. 99.9% of the people will spend 99.9% of their time getting stuff out the door tomorrow. And we're not doing a lot on really what is true continuous improvement. I think we need to get to a stage where at least a percentage of the people are spending a greater percentage of their time working on problems that are going to help you in the future. I don't know what that rate, I'm not saying it has to be that ratio, but certainly a much better ratio than what we're currently seeing across most plants. So really what we're looking at is when you work in your business, you're working on today's income, but when you work on your business, you're working on tomorrow's income. So we need more people working on the business occasionally to look after the future. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick example. So what is in it for us? And this is a cost-saving example. We've got some information here about a machine. It's a flatbed. It shows you how many hours a week it often works. Got some financial input in there. They're sort of made-up numbers, but they might be fairly close to what is real in most plants. And you've got a current state, which is you've got 12% downtime, 16 minutes of set time on average, and we have an average speed of 1790 and so forth. And then what we want to do is put in what would we like that machine to do in the future. So in the future, it's 6%, 10 minutes, whatever. And what that then does, it gives us what the difference will be in the OEEs. If we can achieve that, we would have a 35% uplift on that particular machine. And that sounds like a big number, but actually loads of machines. I think, Tim, the first time I did your machine, it went up 100%, I think. So they're on, yeah. I think, is Chris from Nuttall's in the audience though, somewhere? He's gone. Oh, he's at the back. I think, you know, that I'm going to give you that example on the Maramatsu. I think OE went up 40% or something at the time. Yeah, so there's big numbers in there. And obviously they flood through into financials. So in that particular instance, if you decided we're not going to increase the capacity, we're just going to do the same amount of work, but we're going to do it in less hours, then you could say, oh yeah, we've saved 25 grand and you know, we've got a machine cost percentage reduction 10%, our contribution per machine hour is going up by 11%. Or if you decide, well look, we're going to take that saving and get new sales for it after you've had a word with SBR, then actually suddenly big numbers start to jump out of how much extra revenue or profit or whatever will start flowing through the factory. So why consider a lean program? If you want to increase your profit or margin, if you want to increase your efficiency, if you want to increase your capacity, all those things are going to happen, which basically means you're going to generate a lot of cash. So that's basically what it's going to be about. Right, so that's bringing me towards the end. So as a hit list, these are all the people that I took off the list that so put your hands up if you think your company is on that list, even though you may have spoken to me before, or people from any of those companies here. There is an alphabetical order to make it easy. Yeah, some of you aren't in the bar, that's good. So I'm just going to use my face recognition AI software that I've got on my phone. You're now all logged. There is going to be a consequence, of course, of this. So I have outsourced the consequence, and that's my email address and number if you want to take a note of that, because I do want most people on these lists to either engage or re-engage with me, to just at least have a chat. For those of you who have given me the bum's rush before and said, no, I'm not really wanting to do that, if you could at least come up with some more innovative sort of excuses. You know, I can't do manufacturing improvement, the dog at my factory, sort of stuff. Right, let's come up with something a bit more innovative. Right, this is who I've contracted out before. I'm going to leave him with the last message, Uncle Liam.
Al knows who you are. Al knows what you need. If If you are looking for cost savings or additional capacity, I can tell you, he can give you that money. Because what Alan has is a very particular set of skills. Skills he has acquired over a very long career. Skills that make him a dream for SPA members. If you take up a lean initiative with him now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you. Unless you immediately reconsider.
I did give you an out there at the end, so that's where we've got to, Tim, death threats. So